Hey, it's good to be back with Life Imagined. I'm your host, Brian Christian. Most of you know me. I wanted to come on here because about a month and a half ago, I can't even remember the exact time, it was the 15th of last month of March. Um, I had an accident. I did a video, I shared some pictures, but it was an accident associated with my job. So I had to kind of pull it all down because an investigation was going on. And so nobody really heard back from me on that explosion. And so I wanted to go back over that, even though there is an investigation still going on. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm just going to go into my own personal experience. And so I want to share some of that and then kind of tie it together with what I believe is happening as I'm experiencing this in the collective. I know that others are experiencing similar things. And so please like and share, tune in, because I guarantee you you're gonna enjoy this video. Hopefully it'll answer some more questions that you might be having when it comes to jumping timelines or experiencing glitches in the matrix, these types of things. Okay. And so uh, let's just get into it. And so basically, I was in someone's RV. I did not smell the propane. Pushing on the button for the stove, and of course you're going to smell a little bit of propane. So I smelled that, but I didn't know there was a leak underneath the stove. Went to light the stove. I guess the propane had already been all in the ceiling and all inside the RV. And when I lit it, uh, it looked like a straight beam of blue fire came out from the stove, went up and around, and all of the air was on fire. Okay, it was blue fire. You know anything about chemical explosions, flash fires? It isn't just a and oh, everything's good, where you get your hair singed. It actually burns you from the inside out. So it starts with your bone marrow and burns outward. So by the time your skin is burnt, mostly your organs are already melted in your body, bones are burnt and everything else. Okay. And so my experience, I'm going to give you what I thought my experience was. The lady that it was her RV, she was next to me. As soon as it hit, I grabbed her, threw her out the door, and jumped out after her as the RV exploded and literally burst at the seams about a foot all the way around the ceiling, on parts of the ceiling, the floor. I mean, you could see outside like that much. It just boom, blew it apart. I was about 3 inches from the explosion. And when it happened, it felt like, okay, I'm out of there in a second. I got out. The explosion knocked me out the door. And I had had some encounter that hit like, a flash. I didn't even take it into consideration. Even when I shared on the last video, I did not share the experience I was having, the spiritual experience or supernatural, however you want to put it, because I just thought, well, that's just Brian's mind. Brian always thinks in multiple timelines and matrices and stuff like that. So, I sometimes take lightly how I perceive things because, I'm just thinking, well, that's just how I think. I've become more of a critical thinker as I have been delivered from religion and come out of Christianity, where it's okay to, scrutinize and really check to see if you're imagining things, right? So that's kind of what I thought. And hey, good to see you, Francis. And uh, so anyway, I just want to thank all those that are joining us right now. By the way, it's good to see you. So, so in this experience, which felt like a half of a second to 1 second before I had escaped this blue fire that 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 was all around me in this RV, the video footage showed, because there are videos all around where I live, where we work. The video footage showed that it exploded. The lady was thrown out the front door, and the door shut. And I guess I was in there for 24 more seconds in the blue fire. Uh, and I guess when I did stumble out, which I thought I jumped out on my feet, ta-da, ta-da, instead I kind of crawled out the stairs, crawled down the stairs and got up. I have no recollection of 24 seconds. I have a recollection of about half of a second. And I felt like this was important to share because of what is happening right now in our unveiling of reality, consciousness, the raising of frequencies, and the redefining of what we would normally call death, or calling death as an illusion. And what do we mean by that? Because I could say, well, I had a near-death experience. But in my experience of near-death experiences that I've had on more than one occasion, I believe I died and I shifted timelines. Now, that part of me that just thinks in multidimensional state that I had this experience, I took that lightly till I saw 24 seconds had passed. Then I had to rethink what I had experienced and what was happening. And then I'm going to share with you what happened after all of this in the following weeks that also confirmed that I was in a new timeline. Now, for those of you that know me, you're thinking, Brian, nothing's changed in my life, therefore nothing's changed in your life. I know you. You didn't switch timelines, otherwise, I would have known it. Not necessarily. If you focus, if you believe in the power of one, in other words, the universe experiencing itself, or God experiencing itself as the many, the Elohim, then you would represent my subconscious that would only be able to know what was going on based in my higher self's ability to process you through the current programs you yourself are in. But if I shifted while still in a program, my subconscious would what? It would still be in the same program. It wouldn't notice any difference. Might be a slight change, like something's a little off, or I feel a little uneasy, or what have you. Okay. Now I'm gonna share with you because I visited the other timeline. Anyway, so let me give you just the quick story of this, because I know this is going to be something you're going to enjoy. So when the fire came out and filled the air, I was all of a sudden watching it from the back corner of the RV, like I was a camera. All of a sudden, I'm a GoPro, I'm a GoPro watching myself. So at that point, I knew at that point, I'm out of my body. I'm probably unconscious in some degrees, since I have no recollection of this. And you got to realize, if I am in there for 24 seconds, I'm inhaling blue fire up my nose, down my throat, into my lungs. Okay. There's no way I could have survived that. And even the doctors are like, what happened? How are you here? I've talked to a couple other individuals that have worked with propane and propane fires, and they said they should have found parts of you on the wall, but most of you should have been pretty much gone. And so that in and of itself is crazy. This is the hand that was melted like wax. Okay, on my thumb, and this finger was completely melted like wax. I could not close my hand because all the skin had melted, and I could only close it this much. Okay, because of the fact that it was all the skin was like leather. It was like almost like hard plastic. My face was all dark brown and burnt here, like I had just grilled, like I'd set my face on a barbecue grill. My nose looked like I had a gray slimy stuff over the top of it. I thought it was snot, but no, I was dripping the skin off my nose. Okay. My eyelids were burned all around. All the hairs are still trying to come back, my eyelashes. And they said, how is your eyelashes burned while you're wearing glasses, but your glasses did not melt? And how is it your eyeballs? How come you're not blind? And so of course I had all of that here's the thing. I had pain that day, that night, for 2 hours. Didn't have pain anymore after that. No pain, with second and third degree burns. Within 4 or 5 days, I'm pulling the skin off as though I just had a chemical mask done, which most of the ladies would be like, man, you got a free chemical mask. Look at all that new skin underneath. And so I actually have less wrinkles here. You know how you get those little wrinkles around your eyes because of that. So no scarring. Inside of my nose took a little bit longer. Right on the inside, it was burnt. My hand, I just pulled all the skin off. And guess what? There was new skin underneath. Everything is fine. I have no repercussions. All right. So in this experience, I'm watching myself like a GoPro back in the corner, watching the fire come out, me push the lady out, and then I watch it go in reverse in slow motion without the lady coming back in. So she remains out. I then go backwards like you're rewinding a video, and the fire goes back in, and then it slowly starts to come out again. And as it does, I turn and I begin to run, almost like Trinity in the Matrix, where she runs up the side of the wall before she beats the crap out of those cops in the beginning, or like the superhero Flash. And I begin to echo off of myself. And I knew at that moment, as I'm watching, which seemed like an eternity, but it was a second, I'm watching this version of me run up the wall past me to try to get out the door. And I heard that version of me saying, I have to observe myself as a singularity looking in on an avatar. Otherwise, I'm bound to particle form. Therefore, in order to be a wave, I cannot observe myself through a finite perspective. Otherwise, I'm bound to particle. So I had to move from particle to wave. If you know anything about quantum physics, it has to do with the double slit experiment. You know, if you observe an atom or photons, this is the scientific experiment, that which is in wave form becomes particle. So it's the way in which you observe your life that allows you to either be bound in a prison planet of particle form and subject to biological law, or you're a singularity gazing in on the character you're playing. The character I'm playing is Brian, which now allows me to observe from a completely different dimensional standpoint or level of consciousness, which now allows me to manipulate time, space, and matter. Okay. Now I had been, you know, kind of flowing in this, going, man, I wish I could find a way to experiment how to move from wave to particle. Well, I wouldn't suggest anybody try blowing yourself up, but the experiment worked, except for about 10% of me didn't believe and was still stuck in a subconscious memory loop that I was Brian, and that's the part of me that got burned. But anyway, let me just move on because really the whole bit of me got burned in another timeline, which I'm going to get to in a minute. So as I'm watching this version of me run, it has to turn into blue fire to escape the fire. That's what I'm hearing. And I'm watching this. I'm watching this version of me move in slow motion like Flash, echoes of me, trails of me, heading towards the door. And as this is happening, this GoPro version of me up in the corner watching the physical version of me, all of a sudden has glowing arms sticking out like this, okay? Glowing arms and hands. And in the right hand was a globe, and in the left hand was a globe. And I don't mean like the Earth globe. I mean kind of like a snow globe, but round, without the snow, without shaking it. It was like a crystal ball globes. And in the right one was my life. And I'm watching everything in my life going through, everything current. I'm like, yeah, that's my life. And on the left one, it was almost a mirrored reflection, but it was just a little bit different. One thing I noticed about the one in the left was that all the family, friends, and everybody, which is my subconscious, was a lot more ready for the next phase of consciousness than the one in the right. It was almost as though I had gone as far as I could with that timeline. Okay. As I'm looking at it, a voice behind me, that's what it felt like. We know it was the voice of the higher self or whatever, or source, said, "You're done, dude. You can't go back into the right one. You're done." He goes, your only opportunity right now is to jump into this alternate reality to make it out. So I immediately dropped the right globe, jumped into what was in my hand, and my hand threw it into the blue flame body that was vibrating out the door. Okay. Now, I didn't share this experience when it first happened because I thought, well, I mean, that's just the way my brain thinks, you know. Uh, but then when I saw the video that I was in there for 24 seconds, when I thought I was only in there a second, and I have no recollection of 24 seconds inside an RV that exploded, that you could feel the impact of the explosion 500 to 1,000 feet away, actually over 1,000 feet away. You could actually feel it several acres away, and the building 500 feet away shook as though an RV had smashed into the building. And I'm 3 inches from the explosion. The explosion should have done something to me, even at a vibrational level. And I think it did in certain areas. All right. So now I'm done with this, right? Now, Shauna, she's outside. She's outside and she's watching. She's like, where's Brian? Where's Brian? And she sees a smoking RV, and she knows I'm inside and I hadn't come out. And in her mind, I died. And she had a hard time getting out of that, even though I was alive. Well, wait a second, I'm alive. She goes, why can't I let go of the fact that you died? I'd love to have her share. She's not available right now. Maybe at some point she can share that experience. But she goes, I don't know why. I just can't. I'm grieving your death. Anyway, I kept having a flash of parallel experiences. So within a couple of days of this explosion, I can't sleep because I keep hearing the explosion, but I keep experiencing me on life support in the hospital, me dying, me at my funeral, watching my wife and my boys mourn my death. I experienced that. I mean, I'd be going to work. I'm riding on my little cart, you know, at the RV park, just riding around. All of a sudden, boom, I ain't in the cart no more. I'm over here as a ghost at this funeral. I will say it was a beautiful, beautiful funeral. I know this sounds nuts, but it was a beautiful funeral. Not as many people as I'd hoped could get out there quickly. There was about 1,000 people, but it was broadcast on Facebook and thousands watched. You know, it's crazy. After that happened, my book, The Everlasting Gospel of Christ, started selling a lot more copies when I died in that timeline. Kind of crazy. But I visited that timeline multiple times, okay? Not planning it. I would just flash into it and I would be there, okay? The last one I did plan, but let me just share what happened. So I was there at my funeral. I watched my wife mourning. When I would show up and just want to comfort her, she could feel me. There would be a shift where she would all of a sudden say, I feel like Brian's okay. I feel like he's okay. I feel like everything's going to be fine. And it would be in those moments when I was conscious of her in that other timeline. Now, when I did that first time and came back to this timeline, Shauna in this timeline was able to let go, but she had to embrace that other version of her and, in a sense, comfort the other version of her. And she was able to detach from that other timeline where there was some sort of connection there. I went back again a few weeks after that first encounter. And when I went back, 15 years had passed a few weeks later. That was the difference in that. Now, here's what's crazy. When I was before the explosion, I kept saying, man, time is just going too fast. I need time to stand still. I don't want things to go so fast. I just want everybody to be able to live in the now, you know? And this timeline I'm in now is more present. It is more in the now. It's crazy too, because all the people I'm connected with and all the people I am connecting with, which to me, when I look at, is gathering the parts of me in my subconscious, are more open, more aware, and more ready for next level stuff than in the previous timeline. So I have noticed that. A couple close friends, their relationships are changed the moment I switch timelines. They're in different relationships than they were before. One that was in a codependent relationship no longer is. So there are parts of me manifesting as the people that have, in a sense, gotten promotions or upgrades or whatever in the shifting of this other timeline. Um, 15 years had passed. I could tell you, if I was an artist and knew how to draw, I could tell you exactly what my boys looked like older. I could tell you that they were getting married. Um, Shauna had remarried. I was a little upset at that. She had remarried. She was happy with the guy, but it wasn't me. Well, it was me, just in another form, but wasn't this me. And then just a few days ago, I'd say about three days ago, I'll say 3 or 4 days ago, I all of a sudden had another flash, and I was over there in this other timeline, and Shauna was in her 80s, and she was actually on hospice. In hospice, she was on her deathbed in that sense, and she was very fulfilled. She was very ready. The husband that she had, he had already transitioned, so she was a widow twice in that dimension, and she wasn't going, oh, I can't wait to see him when I transition. She was actually wanting to see me, and I'm there, and she felt me, and she even said, because my boys were there, and they're older now. They now have kids. They had grandkids, and I have, or I'm sorry, we had grandkids, and they had one grandkid, which is one great grandkid for us. So I had one great grandson that I got to, and I'm sure more after that, but that I got to see, and they were there visiting with Shauna, and my boys are like, I wish Dad could be here, and I'm there, and Shauna says he's here right now, and I was, and it was just this beautiful embrace. And again, these are things I have not sought out. These are things that, I wasn't trying to, do. They're just happening. And I think they're happening for a lot of people for a reason. Now, I go back to work, you got to realize I'm only off work. That was my Friday, my last day of the week when the explosion happened. So I simply was off 3 hours early. And so then I would have 2 days off, and I ended up having 3 days off because I couldn't get a doctor to let me go back to work. I was ready to come back to work the next day. So I came back on the 4th day. I worked 4 days. Okay. Now you got to understand, came back on the 4th day, worked 4 days, had 1 day off, and then started another week. Okay. I had to catch up on hours, right? So from that 4 days that I worked, what we do at my job is we have to bring water in. We're out in the middle of the desert, so we have water trucks that we go fill up and bring in and fill up the tanks in the RV park. And so in the basement we have a big inch thick folder full of paper that we write on these numbers and our dates and initial for the water meter of how much water is being used. We check it in the morning, every morning at 8 a.m. and every evening at 5:30, and we write it. Well, for that 4 days, I had been working a couple double shifts, and a couple of other people were working too. So we're aware of all the signatures. This book was at least a year and a half worth of signatures every day. Never missed one. Okay. So when I have that 4 days on, we're doing signatures. I take 1 day off. I come back. I go downstairs to look at the chart, the water meter, and put in the number. I look in there, and the last date that was on there was the 14th, the day before the explosion. And that was a day I worked a double shift, and my initials were not on it. Somebody else's was. It was just gone. No paper was torn out. All of it was gone. And I'm like, okay, this is strange. I showed Shauna. I'm like, oh, this is just crazy. Okay. And I go outside. I drop my keys, because of my work keys. I drop them on the ground, and one of the keys fall off of the ring, and 2 other keys fall off of the ring, and they drop in 2 separate places. I pick up the one set of keys, and I watch the other one pixelate and disappear. And I'm like, what just happened? And I stand there looking, and then it pixelates and comes back. So I pick it up, and I put them both on the ring. 8 days after the explosion, my wife gets a notification on her phone to remember the dream Brian had 141 days ago of a dream about 141 days. And it's important to remember, we don't have a recollection of a dream or a reminder that bled through another dimension. That was the other Brian and Shauna. So we've had some strange things happen like that, as well as just realizations or memory downloads. Uh, Kind of like if you've ever seen the movie The Butterfly Effect. It's kind of a morbid movie, but it does give you a little visual there that it's almost like I started to get downloads of new memories within a few weeks of coming into this timeline. Now, one of the things I will say about this timeline is my brain operates differently. There's a couple things that have changed. When I went into the fire, I had back and shoulder pain. When I came out, I no longer had that. That went away. That was gone. Let's see. Another thing, my libido went up, which is kind of crazy. Happy wife, happy life, right? But libido went up as well, which is kind of crazy. So I kind of felt like my youth was renewed in many ways. Also downloads of new revelation and new perspectives and even feeling more at peace within my own skin when it comes to identity. And so this was another thing that really began to stick out to me. Now, what's crazy is I was watching Bashar. If you know, I can never remember his name, but he's the white bald guy that channels aliens. And I was watching him, or Crystal had sent me a video, our friend Crystal. And this is right after I was telling her, this is a different timeline. I died. I did not make it. But that's what death is. You got to understand, death is the melting away of everything that you thought was you or your reality that wasn't. And when you shed that, you wake up to an aha moment of a deeper understanding of your identity and reality. Now, most people, when they physically die, go to a completely different, or you might hear that they went to a different dimension, or, born again as babies or whatever. But that's not the only way, because see, you have to finish your program or deprogram. You have to finish your assignments. So wherever you're at in that assignment, you could have already died in this timeline, or shall I say, died in this version of you multiple times, and you've jumped multiple timelines. You'll know because you'll realize the matrix. You'll realize something is a little different. Something has been changed. And that's evident, especially if you've had an accident or something had happened and you thought you barely escaped death. Many a times you don't. And this is what Bashar was talking about, is he was saying about this lady was on there, and she had been going through nightmares and needed counseling for 10 years after watching the movie Alien. And she wanted to know why. And he said, well, you were most likely abducted. And this was just triggering something that happened that you don't know what it is. And so you're fearful of it because you don't really have the foundation of what happened. You just know something happened. Doesn't mean it was a negative experience when it actually happened, but they erase your memories. Okay. And she goes, continue, can you share some more about this? And he goes, well, it was most likely a gray, because the grays are actually humans on an alternate timeline that had a nuclear holocaust, as well as some other issues that actually destroyed their ability to sustain life and to reproduce. And over time, they begin to get bigger heads and look gray and get kind of shorter and smaller. They evolved. And the reason their heads got big is because their brains evolved in finding a way to time travel or go through wormholes in order to find an alternate version of themselves still operating in the human DNA, to where they could come, abduct, and take DNA to restart the race. And he said, Basically, you as a gray came to you as the hybrid to get the DNA to sustain the bloodline, and you in this dimension is the result of that abduction. And so, if you have had alien abductions, it was probably you in another alternate timeline in that form abducting another version of you to gather your DNA to preserve yourself in multiple timelines. Okay. So you don't have to worry about that. But in it, she said, well, I felt like at one point some aliens protected me from death when I was in a car accident and I broke my neck. And Bashar said, you died. You died in that accident. This is an alternate timeline. And anyway, it was just really, really powerful. And it began to confirm. And I've been hearing this. You know what I mean? You get these weird ideas and you go, I wonder if there's any truth to this. And then you hear it being voiced all around you, kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. All right. This is what I believe is happening right now, where many are saying we are going to begin to ascend out of the 3D into 5D. I believe that we are going to gather the fragments of our multiversal self into the 3D and terraform it from the inside out. Not that I quote Bible scriptures anymore, but we're so acquainted with scripture and stuff. Let me use an example. When Jesus, in the scripture where Jesus rose from the dead and all the prophets came out of the tombs, as kind of a sign of the resurrection. Remember, it says that Jesus came in the law and the prophets. And so all of those prophets coming out of the tombs would represent all the versions of you coming into the same experience of itself, or a full reconciliation of a multi-dimensional state into one dimension. Okay. And I believe that's what we're doing. So we're not escaping the 3D, because the 3D has been so dense, this density of forgetfulness. Most of us are like, hell, I want out of this 3D. No, 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 no. We don't want out of the 3D. We are restorers of creation. We are going to break open the 3D. Okay. We are going to enable biology to enter its form of the solar plex and solar manifestation and crystalline manifestation and to that degree. We're going to experience that. We're going to see that. We're right now experiencing an upgrade in our DNA, an upgrade in our atoms. See, here's the thing. You know, the reason why we keep cycling is because we're making stupid decisions and not waking up. But now, if you notice, we're waking up, which means it is now beginning to shift, because we had to keep recycling, because the atoms of our physical body in a sleep mode have no eternal anything. Okay. But our atoms in a woke body begin to shift from temporal atoms to eternal atoms that allow you to shapeshift into this body or this appearance in whatever dimension you're jumping into. And so this is something that I think is spectacular. We're going to begin to see a lot more upgrades when it comes to our biological upgrades into more of light codes in what we need to manifest. See, here's the thing. Why not just return to being a spirit? Well, let me reinterpret this. Forget about spirit being that which is without a body. That is our religious paradigm based on just a 3D interpretation. Your experience right now is spirit. Your experience right now is spirit. See you as invisibility, as source, as divinity, as whatever you want to call it, as frequency, as consciousness, has come into manifesting itself as a matrix, as visibility. Okay. That is your spirituality. Your spirituality is your human experience. So you didn't come here to try to find a spiritual path. Your spiritual path is experiencing the human experience and playing the character of, put your name in front of it. I'm God pretending to be Brian, playing the character in The Life of Brian, the Monty Python movie, The Life of Brian, however you want to say it, right? And so we're coming into this in such a way that we're going to begin to really understand what immortality is. I've had several deaths. Back when I was really young, attempted suicides. So I've touched the other side from that area from overdoses. I've touched the other side, if you want to call it the other side, and from psychedelics, I've touched the other side, and from being blown up in a fire, I've touched the other side, and it's all the same, you know. But I will say, what made it different back in the early days was the conditioning and the programming is in what I experienced when I touched the other side. In my early days, when I touched the other side, it was great grandpa greeting me at a gate, you know, a light, family, come over here. Now it's completely different. It's seeing things as a singularity with worlds within worlds and frequency and consciousness and transference. Okay. And even looking into multiple worlds at the same time or multiple timelines. Why is it different now? It's different now because I've been deprogrammed. This is why when you study near-death experiences, realizing the people's programs or lenses prior to their near-death experience is important, because you're going to have to pick through all of the illusions that they've placed in their experience. Because if I've been taught that Jesus greets me after death, I am going to experience Jesus in my near-death experience because I was taught that, not because I'm experiencing that. Some of our experiences, when we cross over, if there's a lens and programming, we're experiencing the egregores that we have created, and they're limiting and, in a sense, kind of adding mixture to a pure experience. The more we come into a neutral place and let go of the programming, let go of the religious lenses, let go of what we've been taught, the more we'll come into a more pure experience beyond the veil that will reveal a more purposeful voyage and journey, if that makes sense. Let me give you, I know that I was talking about just one thing here, but let me just speak about this. Ascension is not something you do in one timeline. Ascension, if you could look at, just picture stairs. Let's say there's 20 stairs to the top. This life is one step. A previous life is one step. You see, however many lives you're living is the steps to ascension. And it's not you bettering yourself as much as it is you unveiling yourself, okay? It's you peeling layers off over lives, and the journey of ascension is eternal. And it's eternal not in the sense of we got to wait for eternity to get off the prison planet. No. The prison planet is the prison of the mind. It's not the planet that's a prison. It's the prison of the mind, okay? So we don't have to worry about trying to ascend all in one step. Our ascension is based in the assignment within each timeline, all the different parts of us manifested as people, places, and things. Now, some of the places, you got to realize everything is you. So some of the places and things and even pets are actually echoes of other timeline versions of you bleeding through symbolically and allegorically to create a framework for your virtual reality in this timeline. So you have multiple versions of you planted all around you as the furniture of your life that is echoing through at one level. And the more we come out of the programming that that couch is only a couch, but it is actually light codes and energy and movement and a support for me to be seated on. In other words, an upholding of myself, upholding myself. the more we just kind of gaze into that in simplicity and in just a neutral kind of posture to see what else unveils, you'll start to pick up on things, okay? And what'll happen is you'll begin to communicate with everything, and everything will communicate with you. You'll begin to hear the first 7 sounds of creation. That the first 7 sounds of creation, okay? And the 7 sounds of creation, which is your sound, the core sound of who you are. I know we all have different frequencies in our egoic and in our humanity, but there's only one frequency in the essence of who you are, and it's the frequency of source. So in that frequency, you can't go down or up in who you are in frequency. So then we can let go of the religious program that needs to fear lower frequencies and try to obtain higher frequencies. This is all moving in the flow of the memory of DNA, and it's just, again, an egoic, dualistic, religious exercise. So you can bypass that because there's only one frequency that's manifesting and experiencing itself from every possibility. And that frequency is divine love and divine authenticity, manifesting that love authentically. And that's what we're stepping into. I like what you said there, Christina, where you've met other versions of yourself in dreams. And I think that's powerful. And you also shared about ascending the moment our brains develop in our mother's womb. Yes, we're ascending even at that point as well. Yes. And so it is really important to let yourself off the hook with trying to figure out anything that's going on right now. Don't transfigure it out. To transfigure it out means I need to enter a trance, okay? And when I enter a trance, I can transportate. I can move into another whole perspective or view. Instead of trying to look and find something, realize that you are an angle of light unveiling or manifesting imagination as time, space, and matter from a specific angle. Simply choose new angles. Choosing new angles of light in the way in which you perceive these depths of origin and consciousness and source and all of this doesn't begin by you looking from an angle of light into spiritual realities. It begins with you letting go of certain angles of light that you have brought judgments on yourself, where you could only see a past trauma one way from a victim mentality. If you can allow your present experience where situations arise to trigger you, to echo you into that original belief system and lie, and change your perspective and let go of judgments, it will change your angle of light in the areas you're wanting to understand spiritual realities, okay? So if you were to understand a spiritual reality or even experience it through the lens of this trauma, you will simply reproduce religion, because that's how religion is produced. It's basically gazing into what we call the forbidden, because you've gazed it with the wrong eyes. And when you gaze it with the wrong eyes, you get a twisted version of the divine, in which the ego always wants to build a shrine and a religion upon it. And so we have to realize that our human experience is spirituality, and there's nothing to pursue. There's only a life to be lived and embraced, and that is ascension. Ascension isn't you getting a goosebump and getting a special thing to prove you've ascended. Ascension is an ongoing act because you are wired to ascend. You're wired that way. That's part of the experience of the matrix, okay? So you're going to ascend. And even the things that you think have kept you from ascending is a preparation of ascension. because you're there to experience all things for the sake of experiencing them. You're going to experience death, and you're going to realize that death is just the ripping away of everything that I thought I was, that I'm not, everything I collected in a program that has kept me from realizing the true version of me, that is death. Whenever you are struggling and you feel like, and I know many of you are going through this, because ever since we've been going through the Great Reset, which is really about consciousness, not about pandemics, that was just a smokescreen. Many have reached out saying, man, I don't even know what dimension I'm in. I mean, I'm blown. I'm in the twilight zone. And that is you dying. I want you to know that. When it's time for you to die another death, take death as upgrades. That's all death is. It's like, oh, I'm in the twilight zone again. I need to ground. I feel like I'm going off into outer space. I feel like I'm leaving my body. I feel like I'm passing away. I feel like, I'm disillusioned. No, let it go and just simply watch. Because what's happening is another mask, another facade, another thing you've held on to keep you addicted to the matrix is falling off of you. Okay. I just did a recent video in our Patreon group with our members, and I encourage you, if you haven't joined yet, go join. It costs $14.99 a month, but I'm putting out videos that I'm not putting out publicly. Okay, and I just did a video on chemicals and on how we build an outward story in our life to promote righteous intentions, in which we pursue helping people and loving people and this and that. But we're not aware of the chemical addiction within the brain that's going on at a deeper level. And that a lot of our pursuits in the name of love is actually in the name of a chemical addiction in feel-good chemicals to avoid the other chemicals that we feel because we have repressed. See, we have to understand, hurting somebody's feelings isn't really hurting their feelings. It's upsetting their chemical addiction. Because feelings are chemicals that we have attached a feeling to. So really, it's a chemical that we've been brainwashed into believing is a feeling in which we've attached a belief, and then everybody wants to respect everybody's belief to keep them feeding the machine that is keeping them to being controlled at a level of the false matrix, which is connected to egregores. At some point, I'll come on and do another whole video on egregores and how, Jesus in the church hasn't been healing anybody all this time. It's been the egregores created by the church's mindset, which does perform miracles because we all have source within, and source is fueling through a twisted mindset these egregores we've created. An egregore is a group of people's ideal or mindset that they've empowered that now manifests as an entity or as a god on their behalf. And it's really just an idol. Even the Bible talks about these wooden idols that can't move or talk or speak. And if you study some of these idols back in the day, they'd have a hole in the back so that supposedly spirits could enter them and make them move and stuff, which was all a bunch of bull. But even Christians believe that this could happen. And there's a lot going on with that. I don't mean to be ADD here, jumping all over the place here, but we need to understand that we are driven and addicted by the chemicals that we get in the matrix. The food you eat, it's promoted in prescription drugs. We feel good. What happens when we rely upon that certain person to call us on a regular basis and they don't call one day? And all of a sudden we start to feel rejected, and we start to feel like that person doesn't care. And we want to call them and say, why haven't you called? Well, what is really going on there isn't about this other person being responsible and calling. It's about a chemical addiction in which this person cannot experience their true identity and wholeness because they've mistaken connected relationship there. They call it a connected relationship, but at a deeper level, it's a chemical addiction. See, the parts of them that have built a belief that they're not good enough keeps releasing those negative chemicals in their brain to make them feel bad, and they don't want to feel that. And so if this person will call, they can avoid that part of themselves, not face that part of themselves. And now, they can get the dopamine and they can get the good feeling chemicals to manifest in their body. So really, a lot of our experiences at a chemical level, we put labels on, judgments on, conclusions on, justifications on, to continue to feed it, to feed the body. And what happens is the mind becomes a slave to the body, and the body and the memories in the body, the memories of mankind's suffering within the DNA, becomes lived out in your life as a fake memory and a memory loop that keeps you in a belief that was never yours. And our beliefs become these illusions that indoctrinate us and keep us locked in the matrix. So many a times, to unlock from the matrix, there has to be what appears to be a catastrophic event, which isn't really happening because you're in a simulation. But that event is there to break you free in your mind and give you another chemical experience that diverts so that it can create new neurological connections in your brain, so that you're no longer avoiding yourself here, but you're kind of coming full circle to meet yourself from another angle. Grab those versions to help you over here where you've built these other versions of you through chemical imbalances that are now manifesting as egregores in the form of this, that, and the other, which usually comes as resistance and enemies in our life. So that's just a little bit of some of the things you're going to get if you come join our channel. We're really excited. We do a once a month Zoom call where we hang out with everyone and everybody can ask questions. And it's really just a place where, you can have your voice again. You're not alone. If you're going through a time of deprogramming, deconstruction, it can be frightening. You feel alone. All your friends left you. All the Christians are attacking you and calling you the devil because you left the church, and all of this. And, your whole life experiences, everything that built your identity is being ripped away. And that can be very devastating. And many, they don't know what to believe. Some have even committed suicide when they deconstructed without support around them, without reconstruction. So we have provided a Patreon page that is safe for those that, and the reason we have it to where people pay $14.99 a month is because I know that only those that really want to be a part of that and are really serious and are in this season of deconstruction are going to do that. Those are going to be the ones that are going to want to go on there and pay the $14.99 and be a part of this, because that enables us to continue to do this. And the more subscribers we have, the more time Shauna and I can invest and come back online with everybody. We came into some situations where we traveled, and well, we know the economy's gotten tough and we couldn't travel anymore. Our RV got old, and so we parked. We got regular jobs, and we're happy with that. That's fine. But we want to come to you guys too. We still feel the call, and I know many of you on here enjoy what we bring to the table. And so, but we need support, because I have people calling me all the time. Brian, I need an emergency session, life coaching session. I said, I'm sorry, I'm only available Mondays from this time to this time. Oh, I can't do it Monday. I'm sorry. The more support we get, the more days I can open. But for now, I've still got to work a full-time job, take care of a family, and try to come on here and do these sessions. And so every month we try to do at least one or two public videos on Facebook and YouTube, and stay connected to everyone here. But we also want to invite you into the inner core to come into our Patreon group, and all that information is up there. And you can go to that link, and there's a free side, and there's the paid side. Free side gets pretty much what my Facebook gets. The paid side, you're going to get discounts. You're going to get discounts on 25% off all courses that we produce and books, and one free course a year and monthly Zoom calls, as well as weekly videos and posts. At some point, I think Patreon's going to expand and allow community to where we can get you guys your own profiles and everybody can have their own page there, which would be amazing. Tina, we miss you too. I was thinking about you the other day, and we miss you too. And you guys are just going to have to come out to Colorado and come see us and have a party. Good thing is there's cabins here at the RV resort. You can come and rent a cabin, and we can all hang out. We were going to be doing a spring gathering. We just were not able to get the time off from work to do it. But we are believing for a summer gathering. So if anybody wants to, comment in here, if this is something, if you would come fly out or drive out to Colorado for let's say we rented a Airbnb that would fit 20 people, and there's hotels around. If you couldn't fit in, would you come? Would you come for a 2 or 3 day glory gathering where we activate you, where we do 5D sessions on you and help you break through and do shadow work and have a lot of laughing, fun, fellowship, music, craziness in a good way. If that's something you want to do, let us know. And if we can get a group of people to come together, we'll do it. And we're definitely wanting to do that. We're wanting to travel again, but we know there's a timing. But I want to encourage you. If you've experienced the fear of death, I'm going to switch gears here because I want to close up here. If you have been experiencing the fear of death, you're afraid to die, you're in a hurry to live your life, you're not too sure what's going to happen, what's on the other side, let me just encourage you. Dying is simply waking up to a more glorious version of you in an aha moment in which that version of you has already been living its life in a fuller state. And sometimes that version of you looks exactly like the last version because you're still unveiling stuff at a certain level that still requires that virtual reality. And when it's not required, you'll wake up in another form. But you will always wake up in a form. You will not wake up anymore without a form. Doesn't mean you can't be formless. It just means form will always be available to you because it's a multi-level, multiversal matrix in which you're a person, you're a plant, you're an animal, you're the sky, you're the matrix, you're aliens, you're angels, you're everything you can imagine. And everything that has been imagined is you. And everything that could be imagined to make a movie of is just as real as you, because you are imagined. And everything imagined in a book is real, just as real as you, because you are imagined. So I want you to realize that everything we create is just as real as creation itself, because creation is divinely imagined. I hope that this message today, I hope what I shared has helped you. I hope that it has helped you come out of areas of fear if you have the fear of death, and test drive it. And I'm not saying jump off a cliff, but test drive it. Go within and go there. Experience your deathbed in your mind and experience what's after it. You can go there because you have the memories of mankind in your DNA. So every death that's been experienced is at your disposal to experience it. I've done that. I've experienced the death of much of mankind to get over my own fear of death. And I've also experienced bloodlines and the memories of all the way up to 9D specifically, and experience different timelines and bloodlines, and even biological species of pulling from the DNA of these higher ascended masters, and living out that reality, because we're all one. You can do it. It's real simple. Give your imagination a chance, and you don't have to question what you're imagining, uh, in the sense of needing to prove it in a 3D dimension. You're simply taking it and applying it to your 3D dimension. So you don't have to prove it separate of whether it's a real experience. Look for application ability. If you can apply what passes through your mind that is positive, and brings forth love and unity and connectedness, then it's good. It's genuine. Remember, just because you're living an illusion in a timeline experience of yourself, doesn't mean that just because it's illusion, what you're experiencing isn't real. The illusion is just the virtual reality platform that is being used, which is just versions of you bleeding forth as time, space, and matter. But the true you is still having a real experience in the midst of that virtual reality. So don't take it as, well, what's the point of experiencing it? It's not real anyway. Your experience of the unreal is real. And so enjoy it. Enjoy it and have fun with it and experiment with it. But yeah, can't wait to at some point see some of y'all face to face. I know a few have already come out and seen us, and we're hoping to have a few more come out and see us as summer approaches. I know we've had people say this to us before. Well, Brian and Shauna, you guys sacrificed and you traveled all over the nation to go after the one, and you would go and to everybody's house yearly. I mean, we would go to everybody we know. We would go to their homes and we'd spend a week or two with them, and it was wonderful, and we love it, and we know that now you guys are going to come out and see us. So we know that that's coming as well, and we appreciate you guys, and we love you guys, and we just thank you. We really do. We thank you for all of your support over the years, and again, if for those of you, we've had people reach out to us, even though we're not nonprofit anymore, we're LLC. We do encourage people, if you do still want to donate, you can click the link on our page there on the website, and it's under the description of the page of this video, and you can donate, and we appreciate it, because it's going to help us to prepare to get on the road. It's going to help us with online tools. It's going to help us to come to you more often, and we want to. I'm feeling the pull to cut back hours. I'm starting to cut back 5 hours a week at my job so that I can spend more time and do more. We're getting ready to start the training course, the free training course, in our Patreon group. I'm going to be starting hopefully before, or excuse me, midway into next month. By the middle of next month, I should already be hopefully 1 or 2 lessons in. And it's going to be the new shift training, which is going to be more condensed, a lot more tools, a lot more simplicity, and a lot more ease. The last training I did was kind of Christian based. This one will be spiritual but non-religious, but we'll also be able to find ways in which you can coach people that are in every religion. And I'm going to give different ways in which to meet people where they're at. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be that training course will be free to subscribers. Okay, it's going to take me some time to do it, but it'll be free to subscribers, and everybody else, they'll buy the course if they want it. I'm also 1 chapter in on my book, and if it's okay, well, I don't know if I can do it in front of you. I don't think I can pull it up in front of you here, but I did do a post on my Facebook about the book that I'm writing, and I'll just kind of give you the overview. It's called Deprogrammed, how to learn to love after religion, how to love yourself after religion. And I'm going to be going into aspects of the matrix, aspects of the ego's journey to wholeness. I'm going to be going into a little bit on star seeds, on consciousness, on the deconstructing process. And it's going to be a short read, probably not longer than 200 pages, 250 at the most. And it's going to be a bridge for those that are deconstructing and they need to find themselves again. They need a beginning place. They need a new language. They need their voice back. They need to realize, I think I'm dedicating one whole chapter to redeeming redeeming your spirituality after religion, and basically being able to take all of your religious spiritual experiences and shift into a different lens and bring you into a higher awakening, instead of feeling like all of that was lost or all of that was for nothing. And so I'm going to be bringing this book forward. I've already finished my first chapter, and that's Going Down the Rabbit Hole. And it's about my own journey through deconstruction and deprogramming, and some of the hurdles I had to get through in order to kind of rise from the ashes, and how I had to go all the way to atheism in order to deconstruct not just the indoctrination and the brainwashing, but also just literally the defining of words. I will also break open all the different kinds of trauma that we experience and how to break through each level of trauma in this book. Not just childhood trauma, but religious trauma, cultural trauma, and trauma trapped in the DNA, the memory loops of the Akashic records of mankind's suffering, what we call the false realm of 4D, or the dark side of the Akashic records, which is the dark side of the mind. And so it's going to be very deep, and it's going to be probably my greatest work thus far. And so I'm really excited about this, and I hope to have this book out in 3 months. It will not go to publishing right when it comes out. I'm going to make it available for those that are that want to join and subscribe for a minimum of 3 months, so that they can get a taste of it. They will get that book for free, and then it will go on Amazon, and everybody else will pay for it. So I'm really excited, guys, about this. This is really surreal for me because, geez, 7 months ago, 6 months ago, I was like, I'm done. I mean, my Christianity is over. All my hopes and dreams are destroyed. Everything I believed was a lie. I had nothing to give, nothing to say, and I was done. To me, it was like my life had been reduced to just doing manual labor and menial tasks the rest of my life, and just living a life of isolation, even though I had this drive in me to bring forth and to speak and to manifest and to see people, come alive and get set free. All my tools of Christianity were destroyed, and I had no tools to set anybody free. And then I doubted my own freedom, and it was a hard journey. But I'll tell you what, the freedom that is coming out of it now, and the tools and the language and the ability to communicate, I am so thankful that I can still be what I've always wanted to be, and that is a life coach, a light worker, somebody who can hopefully speak life and love into people's lives to where they don't have to take a long route or keep going around that mountain, and that there can be hope. And so I want to be a voice of hope. And, I don't want to be a leader. I don't want anybody to follow me. I just want to be a voice. And I want people to know that they are loved. And I want people to know that if they've received encouragement from me, it's not Brian as a separate person. It's really a version of them that they've allowed to love them, that has shown up in the name of Brian, or in the form of Brian, but it's really you coming to you. And And I just want to, I want to impact people in a positive way. So if our organization, if our lives have blessed you, please consider, supporting us and being a part of our Patreon group, and so that we can do this journey together. The more that we can come together, and the more that do come together, the more it's going to shift the atmosphere for those that are struggling to wake up. We want to wake them up. The more you like and subscribe on YouTube, the more you share these videos, the more the algorithm shares them, the more people will wake up. So please, let's do it. I ain't trying to build a ministry anymore, guys. I don't need all that. I am fulfilled whether I come on here or not. I feel it's a privilege to come on here or not, but I don't need it to feel fulfilled. But I do feel compelled to be a fulfiller of fulfillment in other people's lives. Love y'all. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.